Thank you so much. So my name is Anthony Berghammer. Good afternoon, everybody. My talk today is on applying context. So specifically in data science, data analytics, research projects, and how asking better questions and really understanding the context around those analyses can help to make a better product. This is one of the lessons I've learned in my short time as a data slash decision scientist. And I found this to be really, really useful just for really getting everything across the finish line and getting a good final result. So diving in, basically what it boils down to is understanding stakeholder needs, team goals, and business objectives can lead to better solutions, faster lead times, and team growth. And a lot of this is self-explanatory and kind of makes a lot of sense, right? But I think really diving into those questions up front and throughout the entire life cycle of a project or for the development and for the presentation is vitally important to making sure that all of the value is delivered and there's not as much further refinement that needs to come kind of at a later date. So with that, kind of dive into who I am. So forgive the slides, I had a little bit of a technical issue. But basically, like I said, my name is Anthony Berghammer. I'm a data scientist slash decision science analyst with around 3 years of experience, focused mainly in NLP, text analytics, that kind of space, with a little bit of machine learning, some predictive forecasting. For education, I got my master's at North Carolina State University and an MBA with a focus in business analytics in 2017. Currently, my role is a senior decision science analyst at USAA, where I focus on some compliance processes, discovering non-compliant interactions with members using text analytics. And then at EY, prior to USAA, I was a data scientist slash consultant, focused mainly on AI solutions, some research areas, and other things like that. Also, prior to that, I was a data analyst for a research center where I learned a lot. I just wanted to throw that out there too. Awesome. So diving in, so what is context, right? I mean, in this place, obviously, we know what context is, but basically the who, what, and why of a project, right? So who cares about this? This can be the stakeholders that made the initial request to actually say, hey, we'd like this analysis done. We'd like this product built. We'd like this dashboard to live here, whatever it is. And really understanding who those people are, why they care about it, and what it is specifically that they care about. So a lot of times it might be, I really want to understand, what my sales forecast is for the next 6 months. But a lot of times what's more important than the actual forecast of sales is what's driving sales, because oftentimes what's driving sales is are the levers you can kind of pull to influence the final result. So having those conversations and having that kind of almost friction, right? Almost that pushback of, is this what you want? Is this something that you can, maybe you could do something like this, because a lot of times, at least in my experience, stakeholders don't always know what they don't know. So I think having those conversations up front is incredibly important. So with that, in my mind, there are kind of three context categories in this situation. One being the stakeholders, obviously, the people who asked for this specific analysis, et cetera. The team that's going to be working on it, whether it's the developers, the analysts, if it's a product owner, the entire team, and how they are going to work together with their varying skill sets and diverse backgrounds to be able to accomplish the task at hand. And then the business itself, right? So what are the organization's goals as a whole, and how does this request fit into the overall business objectives? So basically diving into these a little bit, starting with the stakeholders. So what does the stakeholders care about, right? And again, going back to the example of forecasting sales, is the goal to forecast sales to better optimize their inventory, to make sure that there aren't runouts of important products? Is the sales forecast to report to the accounting and executive team, kind of their performance over a long-term stretch? Is it a presentation? What does this mean? And I think this helps to understand how we as analysts and data scientists who have our heads in the data can actually answer questions that haven't even been asked yet, right? And I think not just that, I think it helps to create that relationship with stakeholders that say, hey, this is a conversation, right? It's not always good practice to have, hey, here's a request, figure it out. We have an initial kickoff meeting, and then we don't hear anything about it until the demo, where you're going to demonstrate what's been built over the last couple of sprints. A lot of times having that ongoing conversation is really important. It can lead to better, obviously, prioritizing what's important, because a lot of times forecasting sales can be many dashboards and filters and views. But understanding what's important with that can help prioritize that development work, and as well as lead to better team morale for working on fun stuff, and obviously producing better value. So those conversations with stakeholders, very important. The next category that in my mind really stands out is the team. And I think sometimes this can get overlooked in kind of the pursuit to provide value. We can forget about what our team is and how we can provide value to ourselves. Learning is something that in this field it's necessary, right? It's something that continuously learning the new algorithms, the new approaches to analysis, the new data visualization techniques, whatever it is, it's super important. And I know, at least for me, that's why I actually got into this field, was the continuous growth and learning process is just so exciting. So putting people in place, skill sets in place to be able to continue to learn and grow, I think is really important. I think there's value in almost forgive the phrase of being comfortable being uncomfortable. I know I'm at my best when I have a skill set, maybe it's in text analytics, and I haven't done something maybe with a new cutting edge kind of technology like a GPT-3 or something really, really cool and cutting edge. And right now I'm not, maybe I'm not an expert in that, and I'm not, but if I had the chance to work with that technology, it really gets me excited. I'm willing to work long hours and just, I'm really excited about what I show and making sure the final product is there. And it leads to a lot better engagement with the team. It affects obviously the final outcome, but how the team's capabilities grow and how the team can work together and say, hey, can I shadow somebody that maybe does know about the new cutting edge thing? Is this an opportunity to learn, to grow, or is this an opportunity where we really need something we need this out today? We don't really have time to learn, but making a lunch and learn or something like that about that day-long analysis to make sure that everybody's up to speed. And I think that's vitally important to providing value to the business, especially long-term, as the team continues to grow those skill sets. So the final kind of category to dive into a little bit more is obviously the business. So what are the business goals, and why does this matter to us if we're just kind of a data analyst team that sits within the business? It can feel somewhat isolating from it, especially a larger company where the long-term objectives of the business might not be directly applicable. But I think the biggest thing is knowing, is the goal of the business over the next 5 years to become the next really innovative, cutting-edge company that uses AI and all the buzzwords, or is the growth to, hey, we really need to get our stock prices to a certain point, whatever it may be. And I think that's something to understand as an analyst, especially when preparing to do work, or if you get an analysis coming to you. Is it better to just maybe, in the case of like NLP or text analytics, is it better to just build a basic keyword model that performs pretty well? We can put it together in a couple of weeks and then hand it to the stakeholders, present it, and put it into production. Or is it better to take an extra couple of sprints to build a capability that uses even something as simple as word important scores, or even something as deep as embeddings and deep learning types of techniques? And maybe it doesn't bring as much lift to the final result, but it also now gives our team the capability to innovate and to do something that next time that there's an ask that we don't know if we can accomplish with something as simple as keywords, now we have this innovative solution. Always kind of trying to build assets that are reusable along the way as we do this research. Now we can apply that to the next thing. And I think that's really important, because the way the business uses this and where the end users of the analysis sit is really important. Is the end user of the analysis going to be a business owner who doesn't really know about the math behind what's going on, and maybe they don't care? They care about what the final result is, so they can take that information and make decisions based on it. Or is it somebody who's also very technical and wants to know those details, right? Wants to know, oh wait, how did this number happen? Why is this driving it? What are the confidence intervals? So I think a lot of that is important, just understanding the data literacy of the company, understanding the I guess their appetite for innovation. I think all of those things are really necessary when trying to make the perfect or really hard hitting type of analysis or data science project. So now, obviously, I think the big thing is context helps deliver greater value to the end users, right? So the stakeholders, the team, the business, all of these things come together to provide better value for stakeholders in terms of a more usable dashboard, a dashboard that directly gives them the information that they need right at their fingertips with a few drill downs that are just perfectly answering the questions that they want to know. So that leads to a better end product. More innovation for the business. Can we get our machine learning capability to a point where it's easier to deploy models and to get models built and iterate on the testing of those models? How fast can we get that to be a capability? And then is that something that's worth prioritizing over, just checking the boxes that come through kind of on day-to-day operations? Obviously, better team camaraderie, and I can't say that enough, right? I know just being able to work on fun stuff, right? I mean, machine learning stuff or whatever it may be, leads to just more excitement, right? And the more innovation that we can do as a team, the better, the more learning opportunities. And I think that gets everybody excited. So I think the next thing is, okay, that's great, but how do we make that happen? And again, I'm sorry about the slides. I know they're a little bit messy, so forgive me on that. I apologize. But better questions make better solutions. So I think one of the key things is when you're having the conversations with stakeholders, the initial kind of kickoff to a project, it's important to really understand why this is important and how it's going to be used. I think that overall, those questions, and they're not often answered that simply, right? Sometimes it's a question that gets asked multiple times in different contexts. I think that's the key to being able to provide a great analysis. So, should I prioritize the filters that you need to look at, or should I prioritize really getting the forecast correct? Understanding how the data was made, how is this going to be used is incredibly important, and can save a lot of time, because a lot of times I know I see, at least in my experience, you get a task that's maybe it's forecasting sales again. And you deliver a great line chart, it looks perfect, and it's forecasting sales. And they go, well, we really want to know why. And this is, okay, why? What is it that you want to know? Well, I don't really know what it is that I want to know. So it's a lot of times understanding that context around, okay, is it important to see what's driving sales and forecast those metrics, or understand how we can tweak those metrics from an operational point of view? What we've seen in the data can help influence those decisions, and that conversation helps to lead to better thought partnership, as opposed to just kind of moving cards across the board. And then also having the conversation, what does a great job look like for all users? At the end of the day, what would they really like? I mean, outside of something that's a little too pie in the sky, right? What would they like to see? So I think that's really important. What does the dashboard look like? Who uses it? How can we make that happen? And also, how can this benefit the team, right? If we're forecasting sales and we're using maybe an ARIMA model, is there a member of the team who has been focused on maybe text analytics and hasn't been exposed to that? And maybe that's a great learning opportunity. Is it something where somebody has experience with time series, but would like to try something a little bit more advanced, maybe like an LSTM or something that's really gets them excited to learn and continue that growth? And I think that taking that time that is maybe an LSTM, and then ARIMA is a little bit better for production, and for whatever reason, maybe you go with that, but you had that learning opportunity and that freedom to innovate and be creative, which I think, at least for me, is one of the big reasons I entered this field. So with that, basically, high level, I think context around the problem that we're trying to solve and around the analysis that we're trying to conduct is as important, if not more important, than the algorithm design or how the test is built or whatever it may be. So with that, I will open it up to questions. Okay. I don't know if I'm seeing them. I'm not seeing them on the chat. Okay. Okay, awesome. So what are some tools you have come across that help contextualize data in dashboards? That is a good question. Um, I think a lot of times, even tools that are normally used, like Tableau, can help contextualize the data in dashboards. I think a lot of it is spent in less on kind of the graph making, right, and more on maybe little tidbits on how to use the dashboard. Like maybe there's a giant line chart that says forecasted sales, but then really explaining you know any caveats that may be there, depending on how you got the data, that kind of thing, or adding just extra little tools. So I think a lot of it's just the conversations with the stakeholders, and then feeling free to put, maybe some more words or paragraphs into that dashboard. I think that would be at least one way to contextualize the data and things like that. That's a great question. Thank you. And awesome. Thank you, Song and Paul. And also, if anybody else has any tools that have helped them kind of solve some of these problems, it'd be great to know about. I would love to hear about them. And any of these questions can be about something outside of the presentation, so feel free. Okay. Great. Well, if there are no more questions, happy to connect on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. Happy to discuss any more about this, or I'm just always happy to talk data science with people. So yeah, thank you so much for attending, and I hope this was valuable. Thank you so much.